Hello, everyone. Today we have a very special guest, Joel Chudleigh from Deep Footprints. We've been knowing almost like for over a decade, I guess. And then he's a good friend of mine. And then he, what's very unique about Joel is he both run service businesses for e-commerce businesses, and then also he runs e-commerce store himself. So he knows ins and outs of e-commerce business. So I'm very excited to have him here. So Joel, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Haquan.
Thank you. So let's get started with very sort of like easy stuff. Would you be like able to introduce yourself and then like what you do, and then like what your company does?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Joel. I'm from England originally, but I've been living in Japan for 14 years now. And I run a digital marketing agency called Deep Footprints, where we help clients with mainly paid marketing on Google Ads, Meta Ads, LinkedIn Ads, and then also with their digital strategy and helping them with email marketing. Basically, how do they get traffic to the site? How do they convert those users into paying customers? And for a long time, we've had kind of probably 50% of our customer base is e-commerce based. And we started the company in 2010. So it's like coming up to 14 years now. And then about 4 years into running the company, we became more interested in setting up our own e-commerce business. My background is e-commerce. Before I set up the agency, I worked in London for retailers like Laura Ashley, which is fashion and home furnishings. And then I worked for a pure play online office supplies company, like selling paper, printer ink, and that kind of thing. And then because I had that background and because we were supporting e-commerce clients, I was interested in setting up my own e-commerce business. So we put together a site on Magento at the time, then progressed to Magento 2, and we sold home furnishings, furniture, lighting products, everything for the home, basically. And so through that process, like I did have some e-commerce background, but my knowledge base was typically in the marketing side. But then running my own site, obviously, like I learned all about like the finance side, accounting side. So how do I do that for a business? And so then also the operational side, deliveries, all of the associated problems with managing like that kind of side of the business. So yeah, it was good because we bootstrapped the company and just learned everything from the ground up. So it was a great experience and I've learned a lot. And now with the digital marketing side, a lot of our clients are small businesses. So they're relatively early stage businesses. So they also are kind of finding their feet throughout the whole e-commerce industry. And so I can bring that knowledge that I've got to help them kind of not just with the digital marketing, but how do I tie the digital marketing into other areas of their business across the different e-commerce platforms.
That's awesome. There are many things to unpack here. Let's start with your like agency sort of journey. So you talked about your kind of previous careers at the like these like e-commerce and retail companies, but like why did you start like Deep Footprints? Like it's almost like already like a 10 years, right? Like what was the kind of sort of the initial story?
It's kind of I suppose not accidental, but it wasn't kind of inspired by me. It was more just the situation in my personal life. So we were living in London. I was working for retailers. My wife, she's Japanese, and we were thinking about we had a young son. Do we raise him in Japan and as well as in the UK? And if we do raise him in Japan, like what am I going to do for a job? Because at the time, like my Japanese was very, very limited. And so what could I do for a job? And then talked to a few people and a few friends and colleagues from London. They suggest, well, why don't you work as a freelancer or set up your own digital marketing company? And so I kind of researched that and set up as a freelancer. I opened in the UK, it's very quick and easy to open a company. So I quickly set up a company and looked into getting first few clients. So I contacted existing digital marketing agencies, asking if they needed some external freelance support. I got a few contracts, and then we moved to Japan, and that's how I started.
Wow.
And
Wow.
just
That's a real hassle there. Wow. Just kind of talking to existing customer like agencies to get their extra so like leftovers or some like things that they cannot handle, and then like that's kind of great way to start off. I've got like these kind of questions all the times, and then like hey Juan, like you're doing like agency work, and then like how do you get this like initial like the first few clients are the toughest one, right? Like
definitely.
yeah.
And I think a lot of agencies as well, normally they'll start with just one or two people, and those people, they'll have their specialism, and so they'll be missing skill sets. For their clients will ask them, can you do this? And often that will be outside of their skill set, so they might have to say no. It's same with us, like with design and web development. For ages, our clients were asking us, can you do this? And we're just saying no. Like now I have contacts, and we have some design and development skills in-house now, but still our strength is really on the marketing side. So I think a lot of agencies, kind of smaller agencies, are in a similar situations. That's kind of, I approached that kind of size agency because I thought they might have that kind of a need.
That's a very, very great advice from the very starting point. Great start. Maybe like we can talk about like your like companies now, and your company, Deep Footprints. Like we're in the same sort of industry, like helping like e-commerce companies and like retail companies, and then maybe like in your case like a little broader. But my sort of kind of my question is like there are like millions of like companies like doing something like this, and then like how do you sort of differentiate your company like Deep Footprints from the rest, and then like what is your kind of strength, and then like maybe like what is not so much like sort of like a non-focus area, or like what are the areas of like improvements you want to like make in the next like few years. So maybe like let's start with like your strength, or kind of how do you differentiate your company from the rest of the like many other competitors.
Yeah, I mean, it always comes down to the people. So with an agency, it's always based on the knowledge and the skill sets of the people in the agency. So in my case, I've been working in digital marketing for a long time. So it must be 20 years now. Yeah,
Wow.
more than 20 years. And so I've got a lot of experience, but I've made lots of mistakes. And so I've learned.
Good thing.
Yeah, well, just when e-commerce started, it's like AI technology now. There's no rule books, no courses on AI. Well, there's starting to be courses on AI, but it was the same with digital marketing when I started. There was nothing, so it was just exploration. You're just basically learning as you go. And so I've built up lots of knowledge, kind of the hard way, and I've kind of kept up to date. I guess because I'm getting I'm in mid-40s now, mid to late 40s, if I'm honest. But I make an effort to stay on top of all of the technological changes with the platforms like Google and Meta Ads and LinkedIn, and just making sure that I have the base of knowledge and experience, but also staying aware of the technological changes. But I think the key thing that differentiates me is that I try and be brutally honest with clients. So and it means some difficult conversations sometimes. Like I'll have to tell clients, your website's not ready for marketing. You're not communicating well enough on your website. Sometimes it even comes down to the product and the service. So we'll have clients come to us and we'll try and market their products, but then with digital marketing, there's a lot of data available. So typically you can see, okay, well, the cost per acquisition or the conversion rate is a problem. Why is it? So then you do research into like the competitive landscape. So looking at competitors' products, services, what are they doing that our clients not doing, and compare. And so sometimes we see cases where just we don't have a competitive offering to market. So then you have to have a very difficult conversation with a client that, you know, that's more fundamental to their business, making big changes. So I'm not shy to have those conversations with clients. And I think a lot of agencies might shy away from difficult conversations with clients.
Yeah. And then like, to be honest, like many agencies just like, you know, they're fine just like getting paid for like their task or their work, right?
Yeah.
Like, rather than just like making the actual results or actual sort of improving the bottom line. Like
Yeah.
what and then maybe like some of the like clients by hearing your honest brutal conversations saying that like, you know, your products suck, maybe they're getting like really like pissed off by that, and then like maybe like you lose the customer. Like how do you sort of like mitigate that risk?
It never really results immediately. I don't think I've ever lost a customer through just being honest, because they can see that I'm trying to, my intentions are good and I'm really trying to help them. So like, we don't have many clients. Like, we're a small agency. At one time with, you know, like probably 15 clients that we're servicing at one particular time. So I know all of those business owners personally and build a good relationship. So I'm just trying to help them the best I can. I get personally involved with their businesses, so I do really care. And so it normally, like, sometimes we can't get the business to work, and then they can't afford to pay for digital marketing, and then the contract will end. But sometimes like we can together solve the problem, because like they realize that I'm telling them the truth. I show them the data that supports what I'm saying, and then they make the necessary changes, and we can turn things around. So yeah, I think being honest and open with clients is important, because the backbone is the relationship. So if you're honest and open with people, then you end up having a good relationship with them.
And being small sometimes like makes you better at like building those like relationships or kind of real rapports between like, you know, service providers and clients. Like, I think that's great saying.
Yeah, I think because we mainly service small businesses, I'm working directly with the business owner or senior people within the company, and they understand the company in depth. So when it's a larger company, often you have kind of less experienced people that are my direct contacts within those companies, and they don't have authority to make big changes within the company, but they can obviously like take ideas back. But when you have a kind of breakdown in the communication between the people that can make the decisions and me, it makes those kind of situations a bit harder, and making change. Like, it's obviously, the larger the business, the slower it is to make big scale changes.
The beauty of SMB.
Yeah.
Great. Let's talk about your so like maybe like areas of like improvements you want to make, or like I think like honest communications, and then like sort of kind of small, nimble, like real relationship with the client. And I think that's like really great point. Like, is there anything like you want to sort of improve even further? You know, or kind of maybe like if there's like any sort of like areas like you want to, you know, like.
Yeah. So because we're many of our clients, we're kind of working on a smaller budget, so we don't have much bandwidth in the budget to invest in improving our offering. So things like, I'd love to have a dashboard within our website, so each client has a login, they see all their monthly reports, they can see the details of the contract that we've got with them, they can select additional services if they want. I'd love to kind of improve the client's relationship with us by giving them a simple dashboard, so that where they can log in, they don't have to go to Google or Meta ads or LinkedIn ads. Typically they don't bother, they just wait for our monthly report. and then we go through everything. But it'd be great if they had a simple dashboard that they could just log in and see a quick summary of everything, where everything is. Because that kind of it helps our client to know everything's okay. So whenever they want, they can check in and see what's going on. But also just for us as well. So it kind of means that because they can log in and check, they don't have to email us, kind of interrupt us, because we've got limited hours for each client. And so we want to maximize those hours on making improvements for the client rather than explaining things to the client.
Maybe like we'll talk about these sort of tools and tech like later on. Yeah, like I think like I want to know like how you're sort of managing like multiple clients at the same time. And then like each client has like multiple advertising accounts as well. So like that sort of like stuff, like let me ask like other questions like later on. Like I think like that segues to good like maybe like your expertise on like e-commerce business and then like how do they grow. Especially like I'm kind of curious about like your like your paid ad like expertise, because like you've been doing this like for like since Google ads were baby Google ads, and then like it's like almost like you know the whole history of this like evolution of like digital advertising from the very early days. So like let's start with your like general impressions on like what works best for e-commerce business in general. I think like it really depends on like what kind of like products you're selling, what's your kind of pricing point, what's the ROAS you want to target. Like there are like many like variables you need to like consider. But like let's say like you have a client, or maybe like you start your own e-commerce. Where do you start? Like and then like sort of like how do you sort of expand your like media mix into sort of a little more sort of kind of stronger and then more versatile style. Let's start with like where do you start with in terms of like a paid campaigns?
So you start tightly. So if you think long time ago about marketing, like maybe like before the internet, so people would run ads on TV, radio, and it would just broadcast to everybody in that geographic area that's listening, and just hopefully a small number of people are going to be interested. But obviously with the internet now, we have the ability to target people tightly, like by small, well, with Google, it's based on the keywords that they're typing into Google, and then with meta ads, then it's based on their interests and demographic and so on. So the place to start is look at the business, and maybe they've got just a few customers. Maybe they're like, even if they've got just 50, 100 customers to start with, then you look at those customers and build out from them. So what do those customers have in common? So firstly, you'd start campaigns like things like email marketing. There's really good email marketing tools now. So that's kind of, I guess, the base for the marketing for any business that we work with. We look at what email marketing they've got set up. So for e-commerce businesses, the tool that I like to use most is called Klaviyo, because they have lots of automated flows. So things like abandoned baskets. So people add something to their shopping basket, and then for whatever reason, they don't complete the purchase. Then they get I think everyone listening will have probably experienced the abandoned basket emails. They get the email saying, you left this in your basket, do you still want to check out? But then there's browse abandonment as well. So if Klaviyo have your email address in their database and you go to a website and you just look at a product page, but then you don't add it to a basket or take any action, then they can trigger an email to you. Oh, you viewed these products today. Are you interested? And there's lots more kind of automated flows that you can set up based on people's purchase history. So particularly for, let's say you're a business selling consumables. So like one of our clients is they sell supplements, vitamins and supplements. And they're always sold in packs of 30, 60, 90, based on like typically, you take one tablet a day, for example. So then okay, somebody bought on the 1st of April, they're going to take one a day. It's going to be run out at the end of April, May, June. So then end of June, we want to send them an email triggered by that initial purchase date, set with a number of days delay to kind of remind them that make a repeat purchase. So you want to start off using your customer base set up so that when you feed in new customers into the business, then there's a good chance that they're going to become repeat customers and keep using you. And then, so once you've got that base set up, then you can start looking at channels like Google Ads and Meta Ads, and then start with remarketing campaigns. People are coming to the website, but again, they don't take an action, they don't make a purchase. So then you market to them, kind of educate them further in the emails about, obviously every business is different, but you want to kind of push them through to a purchase. So educating them on the benefits of your product or service, and then get them in. And then there's lookalike audiences. So once you've got a base of customers, say a few hundred, then you can start creating lookalike audiences or similar audiences. Different platforms have different names. And then from there, then you expand out into more generic audiences. For all e-commerce sites, the channels that work best on Google Ads and on Meta Ads are the shopping. Once you start advertising on Google Ads and Meta Ads and other platforms, then for e-commerce sites, the campaigns that we consistently see work well are the ones that use product feeds. So on Google Ads, this was traditionally shopping campaigns, but they've recently transitioned into Performance Max or PMax campaigns. So where you send a product feed from your e-commerce platform, so you connect your e-commerce platform to the Google Merchant Center, and from the Google Merchant Center to the Google Ads platform, send through your product data. And when people run searches on Google, it connects their search to the data on your product, on your website. So things like your product titles, product descriptions, so on, become very important, that they're descriptive and accurate. And so when they make those connections, because people see the product, the price, the image before they actually click on the ad, those ads typically convert well. And so you get a good return on investment with those. So that's a great place to start. And then you can do the same with Meta Ads, so running across Instagram and Facebook. You send a product feed to Instagram and Facebook, and then run ads. But targeting, you could target people that have been into your website, you can target lookalike audiences, or you can target by interest. So it's not keyword based with the Meta Ads platform, it's more interest based. But say, for example, you sell stuff for cyclists, then you can target people with interests in road cycling and mountain biking, whatever matches your site profile.
Very, very interesting. When you run these ads, what's your again, this is another sort of like a general, I mean, there's no answer, sort of like a silver bullet for every merchant, but when you run like a typical stores, like what's your sort of like a ROAS target for through paid ads, like no sort of like a multi-touch attributions, but just like a paid ads, like what's your sort of like a target ROAS in general, and then like how do you sort of kind of improve it?
Okay, so that goes back to the strategy. So before we start working with any client, we identify like what is their target cost per customer, or what is their target return on investment, or ROAS. And so obviously every business has their different margins and different levels that they make a profit. But for an early stage e-commerce business, you want to look at growth rather than profitability. You don't want to be setting your ROAS targets too high, because, okay, yeah, you might make a good profit on a limited number of sales, but you're going to restrict yourself in terms of volume. And this is more true for businesses that have a good chance of repeat customers coming back to them, because obviously with those kind of businesses, you make your profit in the repeat sales. So like using your email platform, every time you get a repeat sale through email or through the customer coming direct, that's pretty much pure profit. Whereas when you're spending money on ads, obviously you've got to factor in, okay, I've spent $100 or ichiman yen on ads. So what did I get back? What's the return on ad spend? So you look at each business, you define, okay, what is the profit making point? And typically a starting point, we try and just make it just better than breaking even. So you're just making money. So it's profitable, but only slightly. And the goal is to scale and scale and scale as much as possible, maintaining that you're just making a small profit with Google Ads, because the profit comes through the repeat business marketing, through email marketing. Yeah, it differs. Yeah, there's no number that works for every business. It's just you look at the business, what's the margins, what are the costs involved in running the business, and so on, and set a ROAS target that works for that business. You can just break even using Google Ads, because Google Ads is effectively an acquisition channel. It's the same with Meta Ads. Your goal is to get new customers into the business, and then use your retention channel like email or SMS to bring in the additional sales at a low cost, high profitability.
That's very, very great point. Is there any, like, have you ever encountered a business that's not repeat in the e-commerce? Like, so they have to make a profit from day one or in the first month?
So my business, we were selling furniture, like a lot of it kind of, and our business was called Made to Last, and so the products were made to last a long time. And so if somebody buys a sofa or a sofa bed, it came with a 15-year guarantee. So they're not going to buy another sofa or sofa bed for 15 years. So for those businesses, it's more about cross-sell. So it's like, okay, they're not going to buy another sofa, but they might buy some cushions, they might buy some blankets, they might buy a dining room table. So it's like cross-selling related products. So that's a bit easy to, I guess what you're looking at is people don't have a cross-sell, and they're just high-end. Basically, the businesses that there's not going to be a repeat business is long-lasting products, probably high value. And in those cases, you'd need to go more for profitability on the first sale.
So like a services business, like a recruiting services, right? Like maybe like you just like, help like people to get a job. Once they get a job, like they don't change their jobs like for the next few years. So maybe like, that's one example. But for most of like these like e-commerce type of things, they can just kind of do sort of cross-selling or upselling and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think for those businesses like recruitment, it's more about giving them a great service. So then you get the word of mouth recommendations. Okay, you find a job for person A, then they recommend you. Their friends looking for a job, so then they say, look, these guys really help me. So then it's recommendations. So you're kind of, okay, that guy might be in a job for another 5 years, but who does he or she know?
So even like these type of services, you'd argue that like very profitable acquisition ROAS, or sort of like a cost per customer, new customers, and then using that baseline to upsell repeat customers, cross sell, referrals, and then all those kind of channels.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic.
You can use email marketing to kind of, like, okay, you find somebody a job, but then like, how are they settling? Like if you're a recruitment agent and you then go to them like a month, 2 months, 3 months after they've started, and keep that relationship strong, like how's everything going? If you've got any problems, let us know, see if we can help. And kind of just most recruitment agents, they get the job, they get their commission and then finish. And so then that person is not going to remember them. They're probably not going to come back. They're probably not going to recommend them. But if you keep the relationship going, so I think with e-commerce, well, not obviously this is not e-commerce, but with digital marketing, you have the tools available to like build a strong relationship with your clients. And it's true, every industry, like you have to use those tools to build the relationship.
Absolutely. Joe, like in terms of the time, are you okay for the next? Because like I was kind of expecting, and the conversation is so fun, so I'm just gonna still have like few more agenda. Are you okay with the time?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Sorry about that. So maybe like let's talk about Is there any other kind of marketing areas like you want to talk about, like other than just kind of paid ads, like maybe conversion rate optimization, A/B testing, or SEO, or like landing page optimizations, or like those type of things?
Yeah, I mean, this is one area that I'm probably not as experienced in as with the paid ads, but we do quite a lot of testing, and the difference in conversion rate can be massive through relatively simple changes. So like we've tested things like with our e-commerce site, I remember we had our sofa beds category page as a landing page for our paid ads. And then we thought, okay, well, we're selling high-end items. And so people are coming in, they're seeing the product list. So they see the product prices, they go to the product page, check them out. But then they miss kind of the brand information. So we were like, okay, if we land them on a more branded sofa beds landing page that introduces them to the brand, what's different about the brand, gives them the key selling points, and then from there, then they go into the product. So they've got that information in the back of their mind, and it helps reinforce. And that change increased the conversion rate by, I think it was increased from something like 1.5 to 2%. So
Wow,
it sounds like a small number, but
no,
obviously,
that's like massive.
yeah, it's like a 25-30% increase. So then your cost per acquisition comes down 25-30%. It's a massive change.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Um, that's very good example. Are these like sort of ideas? Like where's it coming from? Like, is it like art, or is it science, or is it like a mix of those? Like, how do you sort of like oh, maybe these people like visitors are not understanding my brand, so let's land them to the sort of kind of branded like category page. Like, how do you get these ideas?
I think finding the problems in the business is like you have tools like Google Analytics where you can look at things like the conversion funnel. So like from
Yeah,
like adding to cart down to purchase. So Google Analytics is quite a good tool because it shows you your drop-off rate at each stage of that checkout process. But then you have tools like there's one Smart Look and Hotjar where you watch session views. So you can watch sessions, see where people are clicking on each of the pages. So if you notice, like if you use Google Analytics, you notice there's a big drop off at one stage in your site. So then you use a more subjective tool like SmartLook to go and look in detail. So watch session views of that page. What are people doing on that page? And then you'll see there's patterns. Okay, everyone's doing this, and they okay, and then you realize that they're not noticing this thing. They're basically missing some key information you thought was obvious, but for the customer, it's not obvious. So then okay, well, this is probably the problem. So then you test a new variation that's like communicating the thing that people are missing in a different way.
Do you run like a qualitative research as well, like interviews, or like any sort of kind of like nowadays, like we have you can just kind of put the like a chatbots or feedback tools, or like do you use like these tools?
Yeah, sometimes things like we saw our so when we were selling the sofas and sofa beds, we saw the conversion rate. So the process was people would come in, look at the products, and then on the product page, we would offer them free fabric samples. So we'd send them a small pack with fabric samples of their preferred choice of colors. Because when you look at like you probably can't see there's a sofa back there, but when you look at a sofa just face to face, like seeing it in person is very different to when you look at colors on screen. Colors on screen are not typically represented exactly as you see them in person. So we'd always send these fabric samples out. So we had a conversion rate of 20-25% of from people receiving the fabric samples to them actually making a purchase after that. But then we saw that conversion rate dropping from like when they received fabric samples to making a purchase. So what had changed? So I had all kinds of theories. This is like just after we came out of COVID, so then people are like, it's easier for them to go into stores and see products. We were just solely online, so we didn't have a showroom. Maybe there's that. Maybe they're going to competitors' showrooms, or maybe there was also the cost of living crisis. So people had much less money because there was inflation, high inflation. So, are they just buying high cost furniture less and less? And so we sent out a survey to so using the email database in the email system, we sent out an email to everybody that had ordered fabric samples in the preceding 6 months and just asked them, everybody that ordered fabric samples but hadn't gone on to order. So we sent them a survey, just kind of asking them like, why didn't you purchase? But it obviously split into different questions and phrased in a more appropriate way. And so then from that we kind of tried to figure out what had happened. In that case, we didn't get any obvious feedback that really helped us, to be honest. But a lot of people were just saying that they're still considering us as a somewhere to buy, but they'd put off their purchase. The cost of living thing was definitely a factor in the feedback we got. So yeah, we kind of learned. So yeah, we've done that kind of thing. But I think a good resource that's a bit similar to surveys is customer services team. If you've got a customer services team that are on the phone talking directly to customers, those conversations are a great place to learn a lot. So if you record those conversations or the emails that come into your customer services team, it's quite easy. Like if you're using a customer services tool, you'll have a record of all of those, and then you can basically download them, filter for sentiment, filter for certain comments, identify problems. Those customer service, either listening into calls that are on a certain topic or looking at all of the customer queries that are on a certain topic. So if you've got problems with a certain product category, look at all of the customer service related queries about that category and see what information's there, because there's often a lot there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay. Yeah, like just kind of lots of things to learn. That's very good. And then actually like some of e-commerce companies are realizing how valuable it is to listen and talk with customers, and then analyzing their conversations to build actual insights to improve their products and services. Maybe that's great insight there. Let's talk about your sort of a kind of e-commerce tech stack, or sort of kind of growth stack, or whatever that is called. So you talk about Google Ads and Meta Ads, of course. You talk about Klaviyo. I think that is pretty popular one. And then you talk about Magento for the site hosting. And then you talked about SmartLook and Hotjar for session analytics, or sort of a heat maps and all this kind of stuff. Is there anything that I'm kind of missing? I just kind of will put it in this a show notes, but if you have any sort of kind of tools and software to recommend other e-commerce professionals, do you want to? Would you mind?
I still do a lot of work in spreadsheets. So
really?
Yeah, just a lot of data analysis is done in spreadsheets. So typically with Google Ads, one of the main reports, the reports are a bit more difficult with Performance Max, but now you can get some data. But I'm talking about search query reports. So search queries are actually what people type into Google. So I think a lot of business owners get confused with keywords and search queries. So keyword, they're words that you use to trigger your ads. So you define a list of keywords to run in your ad account, and then when people go to Google, they're not typing in exactly that keyword, and depending on keyword match types, what they type, it will be relational, it will be connected, it will, if it's a broad match keyword, it will probably have that word in the search term, but it might not be an exact match. If it's an exact match, exact match keyword, then the search term will match exactly. But analyzing those search terms is one of the most important ways to optimize your Google Ads account. So I'll just download the search query report for a set date range, go through, identify which ones are irrelevant to the business, which ones are irrelevant to the campaign, and then add them as negative keywords. So with Google Ads, I use Excel or Google Sheets. And then there's a tool called Google Ads Editor, which is pretty much critical for Google Ads management. And then on the meta ads side, again, mainly analysis will be done in spreadsheets as well. I want to do more with Google Data Studio. Google Data Studio has, or they've changed the name. I can't remember what the new name is. But yeah, that's a good tool for data analysis as well.
That's for sort of kind of 360 or kind of tag managers and like all sorts of stuff like combined, and then you can directly connect with your Google Ads and stuff, right?
Well, it's called Looker Studio now. Looker Studio.
Oh, the BI tool.
Yeah, it's like just basically for creating reports mainly.
Yeah.
You can pull in data from all the different ad platforms into Looker Studio and yeah, basically combine, create dashboards. And then what else do we use? I don't know. Those are the tools that I use most on a day-to-day basis. Like Excel. And then the Smart Look is used a lot. Google Analytics is used a lot.
For the order management and like shipping, logistics, customer services, are you handling everything on the Magento side?
No, with my retail business, we had a split. So we would manage the shipping for some of our product lines, but then we'd sell products that are our own brand, and we also sold other brands' products on the site. So typically we were working on a dropship basis for the other brands. So the order would come through, we would send to the supplier. But then for our own brand, what we were doing, we'd get the orders through. We had to custom code a section of Magento site where we basically made an order shipping system. So it would manage the status of all of the orders, communicate with all of the delivery companies, and all of the customers as well, just tying the customer communications with the communications to the factory that's manufacturing and the delivery company. Yeah. So I guess for a lot of companies there's going to be they're going to need another tool outside of the e-commerce platform. I think Shopify have it quite well organized. So
like app platforms.
Yeah.
Just like plug and play with whatever you need. That's cool. So at the end of the day, like you need to like make a profits, right? Like when you see like a bunch of like these e-commerce businesses, as well as like you run e-commerce store on yourself, what's kind of biggest profit killer? So I want you talk about advertising, you talked about these like logistics and shippings, and then like suppliers, and then like maybe a drop shipping part. It is not that much, but when you just kind of run these like e-commerce operations or seeing a bunch of like other e-commerce businesses, like what is the sort of like a things that like new people or new businesses are often making mistake to just kind of kill their profits?
Probably advertising, just wasted advertising spend. Yeah, not making the spend efficient. So like people trying to, so many people tell me, "Oh, Google Ads doesn't work for my business," and that's not true. Like Google Ads can work for any business, but it has to be done in the right way. So we've seen lots of people just waste budget, and that obviously, if you're wasting budget, it's just killing your profit. I think in a lot of cases, especially more established business, it's not just one thing. There's just a little bit here, a little bit there. So like slightly your conversion rates drifted and got worse. And so because I don't know, maybe you haven't kept your website up to date. Maybe it doesn't, like looking at competitors' website, maybe the design and communication, the imagery is so much more appealing than your website because you've just left it, so your conversion rate drifts. So there's the aesthetics, and then maybe your advertising you're not on top of that and making sure that the spend is efficient. And then looking at all of the logistics, maybe not giving Actually, I have got one answer for your question, and that's customer service. Customer service is the most important for any e-commerce business, I would say.
Really?
Yeah. So
Why is it?
just because happy customers will come back and use you again, and you don't have to pay to reach them. And then also they tell friends as well. So I think happy customers is the biggest, most important part for any e-commerce business. And if you want to kill profit, if you don't treat your customers well, you will kill your profit. Unhappy customers, with the internet, they're very verbal. So when we've had problems in the past, so we had one of our factories just basically shut down for a week or two because they had supply chain issues. They couldn't get materials in. So our customers are getting delayed deliveries. They're very verbal, and they're where you have people, they'll post on Facebook, Instagram, Google Business, like just everywhere they can. They'll be the same person. They'll be posting, like the angry people, and so that those reviews stay up there. And so once you've got a big load of bad reviews, it can take 6 months to work through to say you've got a review score on a review platform of 4.5, and then you get a bad batch and that drops, and then you have to work hard to pull it back. But customers really look at those reviews and care, and so customer service is feeding into customer service is the actual logistics and service that they get. But just I think in many cases, if you do have a problem, most people are understanding. Right? If you just contact them before their delivery is late, contact them and say, look, we've got this supply chain issue. We're expecting it to be resolved by this day, which means you'll get your product on this day. We can either give you a full refund now, or if you're willing to wait, then we'll get it to you, and then we'll give you a discount on a future order or something. As long as you communicate as quickly as possible and give them options, I think that's the most important thing. But aside from that, I think it's just a lot of little things, and just not paying attention to all of the different parts that work together. Because e-commerce business, there's so many different parts to it that need to work well together.
Yeah. I mean, hearing your story, it kind of many people or many companies treat customer services as a cost center, but it looks like it's kind of more like a profit making, like a driver even. Okay.
The worst customer service in the world, in my experience, is Google Ads, and they're the most profitable company in the world. And
I've reached out to them multiple times, and then it's very hard to communicate with. So
they literally made up stuff to me.
Oh yeah,
numerous times. They just assume you don't know what you're talking about. They'll just make up stuff just to get you off the phone. I have too many stories about them, but they're in a very unique position because they're effectively a monopolist. So but if you're not a monopolist, then treat
Okay, cool. Let's sort of towards the end of this interview. So what maybe one thing I wanted to ask you is what sort of keeps you awake at night, or what's your sort of current struggle you want to share with your other audiences?
I think when running an e-commerce business, it's always the numbers. I would just be watching the numbers so closely, and just if I had a good sales day, I'd be in a good mood. Bad sales day, I'm in a bad mood. Worrying. I don't know. I guess the solution is just you've got to teach yourself to kind of focus on the longer term. Make sure you're basically you've got your steps in place towards long-term improvement, and you're working through them so that every day you're making progress towards your goals, and so that you don't spend too much time just worrying about stuff that you can't control, because day-to-day sales it's quite random in some ways, so you can't control that. But if you're making the improvements to your business, if you know what's wrong and you're making the improvements, then generally things will get better in the longer term. But right now, because I'm 100% focused on the agency, it's just all about if one client's site, if the marketing's not going well for, say, one client, then I'll be worrying about why that is, and maybe the communication. Like if things aren't going well, then the communication becomes more stressful, and it's like the situation is more stressful. Like, will I lose the client if we don't turn this around? But yeah, I guess that's what worries me. But again, it's just as long as I know that I'm working hard for the client, doing the best I can, then there's a limit. There's a limit on how much. Like,
Yeah,
how
there's things you can control and there's things you cannot control, right? What current trends like? So in the past few years, we've seen like mobile commerce, social commerce, and then now with like generative AIs and then all these sort of kind of crazy stuff happening. What sort of kind of technical trends or sort of kind of e-commerce trends you're closely watching, and then why you think that is interesting?
Well, I think AI and how that can be used. So customer service. I guess in a few years' time, a lot of customer service will be handled via AI, and I think it doesn't have to be mean that the customer service gets worse. It could actually get better. So like a few years ago, everyone, like the larger companies, would basically take their customer service teams, offshore them for cheaper staff, and then the customer service level would get worse and worse because they weren't trained, and there was all kinds of issues. But with AI, I think if it's at the moment, I think that the AI technology is very much kind of just a small assistance. So like whether it's like writing blog posts or whether it's customer service, I think it's just assisting a bit, but that's going to keep changing and improving, and the AI is going to do more of the work as it progresses. I think customer service in e-commerce will be handled a lot by AI because a lot of the questions you get, simple ones like when is my delivery going to happen? What's the length of this bed? Or I don't know, like just simple questions. The answer's typically there on the product page, but the customer's just not looked, so they send you a message. Those can all be responded to by AI because an AI can have access to your product catalog and all of the data, and it can also potentially, with security, making sure the customer's logged in and so on. It could also have access to your order database. It could give you all like order time frames and so on if you've got questions about that, and then just leave your customer service staff to handle the important questions. But then AI as well, like it could, all of the digital marketing tools. Google have introduced they've got this Gemini AI. When you create a new campaign in Google Ads, you can basically give Gemini AI some prompts, just give it a URL, tell it what you want it to do, and then it generates a whole campaign for you with all the keywords, ads, and everything. But right now, it's terrible. But they have the base there, and as it improves, they're going to need to find a way to allow users to feed in more information than just a URL, because it needs a lot more information than that. But it's a step that I think you can see like where things are going to go by looking at tools like that. And as that improves, then I guess it's going to be marketers using these tools more to make the work more efficient. So I think AI is the biggest thing that I'm watching at the moment, and how you trying to figure out how to use it to save time in my job so that I can get more done, because I guess we're competing against everybody else that's in the same position, and I think the companies that use AI most efficiently are probably going to be the ones that progress and get the best results for their clients.
That's a great story. Yeah, and then especially like you talked about like the importance of customer services and like these like paid ads and all that stuff. So yeah, it's like I think like like mastering and learning how to use like AI is like absolute essential skills for the next few years. So thanks for the advice. Let's wrap it up here. Like you have like a decade of experience, and then like I hope like for the audience I can just kind of take some of like those 2 decades. That's That's quite a journey. Thanks for sharing some of your learnings and hard lessons. Maybe like to just kind of wrap it up, like can you just kind of share your message and advice for young, like more sort of like a fresh e-commerce professionals, like, or kind of entrepreneurs who want to start like e-commerce business, like just kind of could share like your like general advice to those people.
I think a lot of this, the advice and stuff you see online from entrepreneurs is like about getting fund. Like there's a process, like you have an idea, you put together a business case, you get funding, then you work on it. But I think if you're going into something for the first time, or like if you've had a kind of something fail previously and you're going in for the second time, it may be better just to try and bootstrap it, because that way you learn a lot more. So I think if you're early stage, the most important thing is to learn as much of your business, the details of your business as possible. Whereas if you like, say you did manage to get funding, you suddenly employ lots of people, and then you're going to quickly lose a perspective on like all of the detail in your business. It kind of gets spread out amongst your team, and so you probably have less of a handle on everything that's happening in the business. Whereas if you bootstrap it and go a little bit more slowly, and then maybe like a year in or 2 years in, then look for funding. But like in those early stages, I'd say just try and do as much as possible yourself to learn the different parts of your business.
That's fantastic advice to wrap it up. Thank you so much for your time, Joe. Like I will take your like Deep Footprint URL and your LinkedIn, I guess, on the show notes. And then so if you want to talk with him, get more further advice, or kind of get work with him, please check it out. And then yeah, let's wrap it up here. Thank you so much for your time.